I have the honor of talking to Dr. David Peltzer, known to most of you as a family physician with Newton Family Physicians in Newton, North Carolina. He's also a pool physician for telemedicine with MD Live and Teladoc. Dr. Peltzer got his BA as well as his MD at the University of Virginia, go Cavaliers, and is involved with several professional organizations and lives in Newton. He has a wife named Julie and 4 children, Benjamin, Rachel, Samuel, and Sarah. I know Dr. Peltzer because he is in my Rotary group, the Rotary Club of Catawba Valley, and he's actually past president of our club. Dr. Peltzer is a very caring person and gives a lot to our community from a personal standpoint as well as a charitable standpoint. So without further ado, welcome Dr. Peltzer. So Dr. Peltzer, thank you so much for being on the show today. I thought it'd be a good opportunity to have you on to discuss how things have been going in our area with regard to COVID-19.
Sure.
Can you give us any kind of update on what you are seeing in our area?
Sure. Well, first, Mike, thanks for having this platform and thanks for having me on.
Sure.
We are still seeing in Catawba County a slow rise. I wouldn't call it a plateau. We're going up little by little every day. I think every day for the last week or so, we've had higher numbers than the week or the day before. So in our little part of the world, we are certainly not in the downside of this. We are still actively in what we would call phase one.
Okay. Is there like a certain slice of the population where that's been more vulnerable or anything to that, or has it kind of been across the board?
Across the state, there's definitely that population. Mike, honestly, I'm in private practice, so we see people that traditionally have insurance. We don't necessarily see the underinsured or no insurance patients. They usually wind up in other places. But if you look statewide, it's definitely the demographics definitely show that the percentages are higher for the minorities and the underserved.
Okay, interesting. According to the news, seems to be some progress on coming up with a vaccine. There's several companies that seem to be working on one. What are your feelings on that? How long do you think we have to wait till something like that was to be able to be mass produced on the market so that people can kind of feel a little more protected?
That's a very interesting question. That is one of the ways out of this pandemic is when we get an effective vaccine. There are, I think I saw over 120 or 140 different vaccine candidates worldwide. You have to remember, this is not just a US problem, this is an international problem. So scientists all over the world are trying to develop a vaccine. They're using traditional vaccines, plus they're also now using protein vaccines, which just give that spike protein that you've seen the graphic of to try and induce an antibody response. The other thing that's happening is that if they feel like they have a viable candidate, some of these companies are mass producing the vaccine prior to FDA approval and prior to even phase 4 trials.
Oh, wow.
So they're kind of putting all their money in the basket so that if they do get the green light that says, we got one that works, they already have 5 million, 10 million doses on the shelf. It's a big gamble because
They better feel pretty confident about it then.
exactly. If it doesn't do anything, they've just created a big waste product.
Okay.
But that's one of the things that I find fairly interesting with this, because they're doing this thing called Project Warp Speed, trying to bring these vaccines to market by the end of the year.
Okay.
The scientists that are kind of leading that charge initially were kind of skeptical that we would have anything before the end of 2020. And now they're feeling that they're relatively hopeful that we will have something by the end of this calendar year.
Okay. That would be great if they can. I mean, I think that would alleviate a lot of the stress with it. And then hopefully my slight commentary is going to be, we learn from this that maybe next, if we can when we get through this and we get this vaccine, hopefully we learn from this and maybe we're a little bit more prepared next time, which I think we will
Maybe.
be.
Unfortunately, public health usually gets underfunded. and there was an office within the administration that basically got defunded. That was pandemic preparedness.
Okay.
And they basically got defunded and they stopped doing their job because they weren't getting paid. So
Well, hopefully some lessons were learned, and and again, it seems like things are seem like they're headed in the right direction, but I do worry that people are kind of getting a little overconfident, with everything right now. And I think we still need to be a little careful with everything going on, because it does seem like, we are spiking a little bit. Hot button issue is it seems to become whether to wear a mask or not wear a mask, or when to wear a mask and not to wear a mask. And there's governments that are now telling people that they have to wear them, and there's places that are, stores that aren't letting people in. I'll give you my, I'm not a doctor and I'm not going to give a medical opinion. My opinion is, if I go to a store and they ask me to wear a mask, I'm going to wear one. Starbucks asks you to wear one, I'll go and I'll wear one. If Lowe's Foods asks me to wear one, I'll wear one, or Costco or whatever. If I'm outside and no one's around me, I'm not going to be wearing one. If I'm driving in my car by myself or with my family even, I'm not going to wear one. But I think, I'm just trying to be smart about it, but be considerate of other people. If I'm showing a house, I'm going to offer to wear one. If I'm showing a house with a client, I'm going to wear one, because you don't want to, infect people. And my understanding is that it's the vapors from talking in close places that cause it. So I'm going to throw it kind of back to you. What are your feelings on that? Am I on the right path, or what are your feelings on the mask?
Let me ask you a couple of questions. If you
Sure.
go to a store that doesn't require you to wear a mask, are you wearing a mask?
It depends on how big it is. If it's,
Lowe's Hardware.
Lowe's Hardware, I wear one. Any big box store I go to, I wear one.
Okay.
But like, let's say if I go to the ABC and I'm the only person in the store, I'm probably not going to wear one.
Okay. And I think that's reasonable, especially in the ABC, if you're more than 6 feet away from anybody for any length of time. And I'm hoping you don't spend a lot of time.
I don't go there that often, but
okay.
I do like my bourbon. But
my take on this is, you have to understand what the mask is trying to do and what kind of mask we're dealing with. If we're dealing with the traditional cloth mask that people are making at home, or the surgical type mask that the surgeon wears before he goes into the operating room, which is what most people are wearing, one of those two, or a scarf or bandana or something like that. That mask protects them from coughing or sneezing and aerosolizing all of the respiratory particles and the virus, so that other people can kind of dive into that and inhale it.
Okay.
What's called the respirator, or the N95 or the KN95 mask, which is it has two straps on it and it's tight. And it's the one that's the medical grade mask that they're wearing when they're dealing with COVID patients in the ER and in the hospital. Those are medical grade and should be worn by physicians or PAs or nurses, somebody in the medical field, for a couple of reasons. Number one, it has to be fit correctly. Number two, they're in short supply. So those people that are dealing with known COVID patients or potentially COVID patients, we're trying to leave those masks for them. That mask protects the individual from the virus. The mask that everybody else wears, the cloth or the surgical mask, protects them from spewing their respiratory secretions out into the public, and it protects you from the person that's wearing that mask. So by wearing a mask, you are basically, out of respect for the people around you, trying to keep your secretions to yourself, but it doesn't protect you who's wearing that mask from anybody else's sneezing or coughing or respiratory secretions, or the virus in general. Okay. So you have to understand what kind of mask we're wearing and what we're trying to do with the masks. In general, it is considered a courtesy for those around you to try and wear the mask. We do know that it decreases the risk of transmission 6-fold if both parties involved in a transaction are wearing a mask. 6-fold decrease in transmission if both parties are wearing a mask.
So it's 6 times more effective in preventing it, is what you're saying,
Six
right?
times more effective
Okay.
than nothing. That's
Yeah,
right.
that's great. I mean, it's good to. I mean, I think it's really a great way of looking at it, so that you can really, again, try and be safer with people. And again, like you said, as a courtesy to others, I think that's where I kind of look at it.
Sure.
When I wear one, and again, I don't necessarily like it, and I've got a beard. That's a whole different issue. I don't want to mess up my beard. I spend some time making it the way it is, so I don't want to mess it up. But at the same time, I guess it's okay. So one of my fears. I'm going to switch the view here, but one of my fears was when this all came out and they started telling people they were going to have to wear masks. There was this map that came out, and it showed that people with certain beard styles were going to have to if you're going to wear a mask, it's not as effective or whatever. And every time it's posted, it seems to disappear. Someone gets rid of it or something. So I'm hoping it's because it's not necessarily the case, because I don't, it took me a while to grow this, so I don't want to, I don't want to have to shave it off.
So I have two of my doctors in this office that had beards before COVID was around. And in our office, when we're seeing COVID potential patients, we're wearing the N95 respiratory masks.
Okay.
And that is not beard friendly. And as OSHA director of my practice, I made them shave their beards.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, hopefully that doesn't go any further than that then.
The cloth mask or the surgical mask, it's not an issue. I will tell you that beards are considered a risk factor for COVID.
Interesting.
So Mike, just wrapping up the whole
Sure.
beard, not the beard issue, the mask. If you look at what happened in, for example, New York State, they got hit hard and they got hit heavy, and they are now on the downhill side. And if you look at their numbers, they are doing massive testing, and their numbers keep going down. So it's not a matter of the numbers are going up because we're doing more testing. Look at New York. They're doing more testing than any other country. That state is doing more testing than any other country right now. And their numbers are down.
Okay.
And they made masks mandatory if you're going to be within 6 feet of anybody. And I think that was a good general ruling. And they have a pretty good common sense approach to this. So if you're out walking the dog in the park, no, you don't have to have a mask. If you're going to go on the subway and you're going to be within 6 feet of somebody, you need to wear a mask. If you're going to go to Home Depot and you're going to be within 6 feet of somebody, you need to wear a mask. And in New York, it's not voluntary, it's mandatory. Right now in North Carolina, they're talking about making it mandatory. There are some counties, I believe Boone, which I think is Watauga County, they have made it mandatory, I believe, to wear masks when they're out in public.
Okay. Yeah, I did see that in the news. So hopefully it'd be interesting to see how that goes. Do you have any idea and again, I just don't want to, I'm trying to focus on this just being about facts and not about anything political. Is there any other things that maybe are contributing to why people maybe would be hesitant to wear one? Is it?
We've heard the breathing issue. I wear a mask all day. I wear a surgical mask on the days that I'm not seeing potential COVID patients. And I wear an N95 mask all day on the days that I'm seeing potential COVID patients.
And you're not getting lightheaded and
I'm not getting lightheaded. I'm not getting chest pain. I'm not passing out. Do I like it? No.
Yeah.
But it's necessary to try and keep my patients from potentially getting sick from if I'm an asymptomatic carrier at this point.
Yeah.
And it's a courtesy to them. And I think they expect that when they come to the doctor's office to make sure that I'm doing something to make sure I don't infect them. Well, if I'm doing it in my office, I think everybody should be doing it if they're out in the general public. And we only have 3 things to fight this right now, Mike. We have isolation, which is total lockdown, which everybody hated. We have washing our hands and washing everything else, which we're all hopefully doing. And then we have masks. Outside of that, we don't have much left in our toolbox. We don't have a good drug for this. And right now we don't have a good vaccine for this.
Yeah.
So if we have any tools we can actually deploy, the only one we can really do other than going back on lockdown, which nobody wants, and the only way to prevent that is to keep the numbers relatively low, wearing a mask will help keeping those numbers lower.
Do you think some of the hesitation also is like when this all started and people were like, oh, should we wear masks? And they came out and said that we shouldn't. And I kind of felt like even then I kind of, in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, they're probably telling us that because they need the medical people to have them. And so to kind of protect us from ourselves kind of, but I kind of worry that maybe people feel like, well, they didn't think we needed them then, but now they do. So now they keep changing their mind. Do you think there's some of that out there too?
I do think there's some of that. And then also, I think we had to think about how we're trying to protect and who we're trying to protect, and realizing these viral particles are so small, they actually do go through cloth and they do go through surgical masks. So wearing the mask doesn't protect the wearer of the mask, it protects the people around the wearer of the mask.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that definitely helps clear it up a little bit. And again, it seems to be kind of a hot button issue when I talk even about my friends and I scroll through my Facebook feed and everything. So I felt like, hey, let's actually talk to a doctor and let's talk about it, in real time and try and get to the bottom of kind of try and get away from everybody's like how they think about this from a emotional standpoint, and just let's stick to logic and let's stick to kind of what the right thing to do is. So
Mike, there is good data on the masks now, and I'm also going to tell you that the infectious disease people, there's a doctor out of Winston-Salem. His name is Dr. Christopher Ohl, O-H-L. He does a weekly news conference, I think on Thursday afternoon. And his last news conference, which I think was yesterday, he specifically addressed the studies on wearing the mask.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you that of all the people in medicine, I think across the board, the smartest people in medicine are infectious disease doctors.
I mean, you would hope they are. the infectious disease and brain people, maybe. But yeah,
More so the infectious
you
disease
definitely want the infectious disease people to be there and be
Right.
the smartest people in the room, I guess. That's
Right.
true.
They traditionally are.
All right. All right. So kind of move on, I guess. I feel like we kind of talked about it a little bit, but what are some of the more high risk activities people should avoid or at least caution themselves in doing during this time period?
So the biggest one I would say would be hosting parties. I think people heard about the Dallas Cowboys and the Houston Texans, that there are now many people on both of those teams that were at a party and it got passed around. So the whole idea of maintaining social distancing and keeping people that are not part of your nuclear family outside of your 6 feet space for more than 10 minutes.
Okay.
Along with that, I would say choral type activities when people are singing, like in a church, band type activities like a high school marching band or a symphonic band. I would be very careful about eating inside a restaurant because it's a prolonged period of time within a certain space with many people in there. Even if the distancing is more than 6 feet, everybody's still kind of breathing the same air. The idea is to keep more than 6 feet apart and don't be within 6 feet of other people for more than 10 minutes. That puts you at high risk.
Okay.
The more vocalization, the louder the vocalization is, the closer you are to that person vocalizing, the more at risk you are.
Awesome. All right. And that's really, really good. And I don't feel like, and I appreciate you coming on to be able to do this, because I don't feel like anyone's just literally just laying it out there like this. There seems to be just other things attached to every single thing that comes out. So I appreciate you, like I said, just being this blunt about it, because I think it's what people need to hear. And I think it's what we need to do so that this doesn't spread in our community, because I don't want that. I want to be able to keep selling houses and my agents to stay busy and my family to not get sick. And so we want to try and do everything we can to try and keep everybody healthy. So again, I just, appreciate you being so candid with us on this.
Like nobody's ever accused me of beating around the bush.
No. And I appreciate that about you as a, as a person that generally doesn't either. So I may phrase it in a nice way, but at the same time, if I have a question, I'm just going to ask the question and
Sure.
and just kind of go from there. But All right. So a couple other little things, I guess. What about mental health? I know you're more focused on the medical side, but do you have any advice for people that might be struggling with the lingering uncertainty surrounding the virus and the financial things and that sort of thing? I think that's really important. You know, I see people, in my life or, friends and family and stuff that maybe might struggle with something like this. What advice do you have for people that may be struggling there?
Yeah, we are definitely seeing a lot more of anxiety, probably more than anything else, but also some depression. Um, these are uncertain times, health wise. They're uncertain times financial wise when people lose their ability to work and their ability to pay their bills. It can be very unnerving. There is some help out there from the government. I think they're talking about extending the federal government bonus for people that are currently unemployed beyond July. And I think there's 12 weeks available for people that are unemployed from the state. Um, there is help out there. It's difficult right now because there's so many people trying to get it. The website has crashed many times. I'm sure we've all heard people that we know personally that have tried to sign up for furloughs and things like that have had some problems getting through to that. Um, there are services out there for mental health. A lot of doctors are doing telemedicine if you're scared about going to the doctor's office. Most doctors and specialists, primary care doctors and specialists, are doing telemedicine. So there's a visit very much like a Zoom type meeting that people can see their provider or see a new provider through a telemedicine visit. So if people are struggling with their mental health, there are some things that can be done. There are counselors out there. There's pastoral help out there from churches and other religious organizations as well.
Oh, good. And so I just, I guess, encourage people to seek out the help. If you feel like you're struggling,
Mhm.
definitely seek out the help. And, if you do have a doctor, talk to your doctor and they can tell you where to go to. Right.
Mhm.
Um, all right, super. Well, not to bring everybody down, but I think it's just like I said, it kind of really important to kind of talk about those things as well because I think there's a lot of that going on. And again, we want everybody to be physically healthy, but we want them to feel good about themselves too, and 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 kind of get to that next point in their life and get through this.
Sure.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about a few fun things, and we'll kind of wrap up at the end, but the last segment that I do on the show, we kind of try and be a little bit more lighthearted and ask a couple questions to have a discussion on kind of how people have been handling things throughout all this. And so one of the first ones I have on here is, do you have any new shows that you've watched since March that you would recommend to others?
I do. My wife Julie and I just watched Just Mercy. Um, it's about a lawyer. I think he was from Delaware. He was African American and he was educated at Harvard Law. And when he graduated, he went down to Alabama to try and help some people on death row. And a lot of those people down there had kind of had quick cases and been put away for life, and then were on death row. And he continues to this day trying to help those people that were wrongly convicted,
Hmm.
and has overturned a lot of convictions. Just Mercy. I think we rented it on Amazon. I think it was
Okay,
actually free.
cool.
Great movie.
Yeah, one I picked up lately. I've been kind of throwing them out there on everyone, and mine is not nearly as serious, but probably no less entertaining. It's called Working Moms. I think it's a Canadian show, and it's on Netflix.
Okay.
And it's about three mom friends that I guess started out being friends in like a mommy and me group kind of a thing. And Kathleen found this one and said, "This is funny. We need to watch this." And it's pretty inappropriate, but it's really funny. So
All right. We'll
highly,
look for that. We
yeah.
were
So
looking at some more shows.
yeah, it's pretty funny. So
Okay.
um, and so what's been your go-to takeout spot for the last couple months?
Go-to takeout spot. I would have to say B-52s with Mitchell Ball in
Okay,
Newton. Their customer service is stellar.
awesome. All right, good. Yeah, said, I'm trying to think of somewhere else that we started picking up food. My old faithful is Rancho Viejo. That's my favorite restaurant. And so we pick up stuff from there quite a bit. I'd say it's still, and then the Wild Walk over in Viewmont there, we like that as well. So,
We've
anyway,
tried to support our locals throughout this whole thing. And honestly, Julie and I have actually started eating out at restaurants, but
outside. Yeah.
And we were at Rancho Viejo the other day.
Oh, good.
Outside.
Nice. Yeah, it's we're still doing takeout. We have eaten outside at a couple of places, but I'm still like I said, I'm still holding back a little bit. I feel like I got too many people depending on me, so I kind of have to. I'm really trying to be careful.
Good.
So, is there any activity that you've missed more than you would have expected in this time period, where you really kind of were, didn't realize how much you would miss something that you're not doing anymore?
I would say racquetball.
Okay.
I play racquetball usually about twice a week, and I haven't played since March.
Okay.
That would be my first thing. And the second thing is we're in a Rotary Club together. I miss the camaraderie and the fellowship of Rotary, even though we've continued our meetings. I miss meeting in person.
Yeah. No, I agree. It was really cool. I'm, not to talk outside of our show or whatever, but we did finally have a meeting that was outdoors, but we got to meet in person this past week, and it was really nice to see everybody. And we all social distanced, and all our chairs were 6 feet apart, and it was a really good setup. But it was really cool seeing everybody finally again, because it just had seemed like a while, so it was really nice. And I didn't realize how much I missed it. I mean, I missed everybody, but I didn't realize how much I missed until I got to see everybody in person again. I'm like, oh man, I miss everybody. So anyways, that was really good that we got to do that. My other thing is, I am a sports fan, and most of my off work time is probably dedicated to either following or watching, some sort of professional sports. And, so I know that I already had that as part of me, but I can't believe how bad it's been not having that, though. I mean, I was excited for the Phillies. I'm, originally, from South Jersey, and so I'm a big Philadelphia sports fan, and Philly season was getting ready to get started, and I was really excited for that. And the Flyers seemed like they were like, they had a shot at even like winning the cup this year, and that all got shut down. And so it's kind of been a big bummer, but I think that's probably been the biggest thing for me, is just finding other things. And
someone's going to take your man card for watching Working Moms instead of.
That's what's so sad, is that I'm actually like, I'm down to watching Working Moms because I don't have sports. So, right. I mean, I'm secure, so I don't really care, but because it is funny, but yeah, it's so ridiculous.
Okay.
But anyway, one other thing, what's your favorite comfort food, Vince, since this has all started?
My comfort food, I would have to say Cheez-Its is my comfort food right now.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I said on a previous one, we got one of those Nespresso machines, and so that's been my go-to. Try not to drink too much of it, though, because you can kind of, like, if you get the small ones are really packed with caffeine, so you have to be careful on those. But anyway,
be careful. You can cause some arrhythmias if you drink too much caffeine.
All right, I'll be careful. Thank you. All right. Is there anything else that you wanted to get out there we may not have been able to cover today? I feel like we've had a real good talk, but is there anything we kind of maybe didn't touch on that you want to make sure you get out there to everybody?
I would just reiterate the idea that, as a society, we have to try and beat this thing together, and we really don't have a whole lot of things to throw at it. We have to maintain our social distancing. We have to continue our hand washing and washing down surfaces. And we really have to consider wearing a mask as a courtesy to those around us, and to make sure that our numbers don't keep going up. Hopefully our numbers will start coming down, and we don't have to go back into lockdown.
Yeah, that's my biggest fear, is that, we did all this and we went through all this and have to go through it again. So if wearing a mask can help prevent that, then, I'm all in. So hopefully others will kind of start seeing it from that perspective, and we kind of get to that point. So
I would hope so. I would hope people would stop making it a political thing and just do it as a courtesy for the community.
yeah, I think I think if people can look at it that way, I think it'd be great. All right. Well, I appreciate you being on the show today. I really appreciate everything that you do for the community, and I know you're highly respected. I'm sure a lot of people are going to see this, and I think it'll be well received. I hope it will, at least. And if not, I don't really care, because I think it's really good information. So
thanks for doing it. Thanks for the
I appreciate
platform.
it.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.